Okay, this is Larry Sutton. I'm from Mountain View School. I've been here for 44 years, and I thought people might want to know some of the things that I did. I've taught pre-trip inspections on school buses and trained several drivers. Brian Duncan, he's going to be the guy that films me and tells me if I make bad mistakes or good mistakes. Maybe it'll help somebody. That's what I hope for, to help somebody. And here we go. This is the first part of it. We're going to check these doors, and we're going to make sure that they're fastened, secure at the top and at the bottom, and open and close okay without any problems. And then we're going to check our handrails, making sure that they're tight, there's no screws loose on them, where nobody don't fall when they try to climb up in there when they get old like me. And then we're going to check our steps. We're going to make sure that the padding on the steps or whatever you call this good stuff here that's on there is all good, where you don't slip and slide and hang your toe on it. And then we're going to check the fire extinguisher over here, make sure that the fire extinguisher's aired up to the point that it'll shoot off if you have a fire, which we hope nobody has a fire. And it's fast and secure to the bus. And then I'm going to get up here and I'm going to start down these seats here. I'm going to peck on them a little bit, make sure that they're not broken, and make sure the inside of them is fastened down where they don't pop when I hit them. And I'm going to check and see if there's any bad cuts or anything like that on them. And as I go down through here, I'm going to reach over and I'm going to check them windows, emergency exits, and then I'm going to check my roof hatches or emergencies to make sure that they're working properly. And you might want to put them up when it's really hot, let a little cool air in here. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and check these seats back through here and check these other two windows right here to make sure that you can get out of them. They're emergency exits. Make sure they're working properly, and our other emergency roof hatch. And then we're going to check our emergency door, which you may or may not have to open your door and close it, but we did. The fire extinguisher back here, and it's down there and it's fastened good. The pressure gauge is up to full, and it's fastened securely to the wall. And the flappers is holding it good, and that looks like everything is pretty good shape back here. And then when you get your alarm set, this is where you press the button. It's just making sure that everything looks good around that. I have had those buttons to freeze up and not work when you turn them off. And then the horns go off and the blow, the bells and the whistles. And as I come back to the front, I'm going to kind of give my bulkhead a look here. I'm looking at my first aid box, making sure that it's secure, making sure that the seal is not broken on it, that where band-aids and things that's supposed to be in there, I want to make sure that they're in there. Body fluid kit, I'm checking the seal on it to make sure that it's not, because usually when you get into that you use too much and you got to put a new packet in it. And my insurance cards is up in this little pouch right there. And I'm checking my mirror, making sure that it's secure, make sure that it's not broke or cracked or anything. And then I'm going to sit down in the seat, and I'm going to put my seat belt on, and I'm going to check it, make sure that it's not frayed, or that I know that it's going to hold me in here safely. That telephone did ring that time, didn't it? And then I'm going to check my switches and everything, but I'm going to start my motor up and allow my gauges to build up on my air pressure and everything, and I'm going to check all my switches while I'm doing that. Okay, I'm going to check my middle heater, make sure it's working. My step well heater, make sure it's working. And my driver's heater, make sure it's working. My defroster fans, and make sure that they're working properly. We're running. Okay, I'm checking my strobe light. It's got a it's got a indicator on it to show that it's working. I'm checking my activity lights, make sure they're working. I'm checking my driver's light, make sure it's working. I'm checking my front dome lights and my rear dome lights, making sure that they're working. And then I'm gonna check my student lights, make sure that they're working. Okay, their indicators showing that they are working. There's one on the dash and then on the monitor up there. And then I'm gonna open my door and make sure that my red lights come on. Student red lights, they're blinking left and right. The indicator shows that they are. The indicator on the dash shows that it is. And I'm looking at my walking gate out there, make sure that it opened up properly. I'm looking at my stop arm, make sure that it opened up properly, make sure that the lights are working on it, and the stop sign is not faded, that you can see it. Okay, I'm checking my four-way flashers, and the indicators indicate all of them is working. Now then, I'm going to go to my dash. I'm checking my water level, and right now it's 140, but if it had been running for a while, it would probably get up between 170 and 200. I'm checking my DEF and making sure that my DEF has got plenty in it, and it's pretty much full. I'm checking my transmission temperature, and right now it's on 100. My oil pressure is pretty close to 40 psi's, and my water temperature is still cold, so but it's, I mentioned that. But anyway, I'm checking my RPMs. They're running probably about 800 RPMs, and I'm checking my voltmeter. It's just a little bit over 18. It's still in the safe range. Checking my fuel. It's about a quarter of a tank on that. And then I'm checking my air pressure. It's up to about 125, something of that nature, on both gauges. I'm checking my horn, make sure that it works. I'm checking my right turn signal, a left turn signal, and my indicators are working. And I'm checking my windshield wipers, making sure that they're working properly. Checking my windshield washers, making sure that they're washing. I'm looking at the rubber on the windshield wiper, making sure that the windshield wiper rubber is not cracked and torn, in order to keep it from washing right. I'm turning the headlights on, and I hit my dim and brighten. My brightener says, the indicator says that the headlight is working properly as the indicator when it's bright and when you dim it. Okay, now then, I'm going to turn my engine off. I prolonged the alarm. I used the lights. I'm going to turn my key off, and then I'm going to turn my key back on, and then I'm going to push the park brake off, and then I'm going to wait. And when the air pressure settles, well, then I'm going to press on the brake pedal, and I'm going to hold it for 1 minute, and no more than 3 psi drop on my air brake. And also, after I do that, I wait a minute. I'm going to pump the brake pedal to drops to about 60 psi's, and the brake light and the buzzer should kick on around 60 psi's as I fan it down. Okay, the light and the buzzer come on, and I'm going to fan it on down to the park brake comes on. Okay, the park brake come on. Okay, now I'm going to start my engine, and I'm going to check my park brakes and make sure it's holding. Okay, it brake holds. Okay, also this has got an ABS light on. Oh, it's got an ABS light I want to check and make sure that it's not on, to make sure that my brakes are working properly, that the anti-lock works right is not on where it will work properly. Okay? We'll check my sun visor and make sure that it's not broken, that it's not dirty where I can't see out of it. And also I'm going to check my mirrors as I'm sitting here in the bus and make sure my mirrors is not cracked or out of focus. And if they're out of focus, then I can adjust my mirrors and put them where I need them. I'm checking my student mirrors out there, making sure that they're set right, and I'm making sure all my mirror brackets are held in place and no broken arms. Now I'm going to have to shut my bus off, and I'm going to have to walk to the back of the bus to keep my alarm from going off. Okay, when the lights blink, that means the alarm is been fixed where it won't blow up. We don't want these things to go beep, beep, beep anymore. Okay? Okay, I'm going to get up here in front of my bus. I'm going to look my bus over, give it an all-over appearance. I'm going to check my mirror brackets from out here. I'm going to make sure that they're all fastened secure, no bolts missing or nothing broke. Then I'm going to start looking at my lights and starting at the top of my top lights, my student lights. Make sure that they're not discolored, and the yellow ones, I'm checking them to make sure that they're fastened on secure. Around the red ones, I'm making sure that they're not discolored and they're fastened secure. Those lights are very important on a school bus. And I'm checking my clearance light, make sure that they're not discolored or broken. I'm checking my headlights, making sure that they're working properly, they're not cracked. I'm checking my turn signals, making sure that they work. I'm checking my walking gate, making sure that there's nothing out here that would indicate that there's any broken thing. And I look under my bus and make sure that there's no water or no oil leaking underneath my bus. And I'm making sure that it ain't leaning one way or the other to indicate a flat tire or a broken spring. And there's a few things on this side that I'm going to mention before I go to the other side. I'm going to mention this. I'm checking my windshield washer fluid, making sure that it's got plenty in it. And I'm checking my radiator hose, making sure that there's no leak in it. I'm checking my water pump right over in there, making sure that there's no leaks on my water pump. I'm checking my alternator, making sure that it's fastened on secure, and my water pump and my alternator is belt driven. I'm also checking the belt, making sure that the belt is not frayed or cracked, and making sure that it don't have too much slack in it, which would be about a ½ inch, I believe, is somewhere's that in that. And I'm checking my heater hoses right here, making sure that there are no leaks in my heater hoses. And there's one of the heater hoses that come out up there where one of the shutoff valves is. Checking my fan clutch, making sure that it's not just freewheeling where it don't overheat. Now I'm going to go to my other side and check it. Okay, I'm checking my radiator level, making sure that it's full. This bus has got 2 levels on it. One of them is for a Cummins engine, and the other is for a International. So we're checking for the Cummins. Okay, I'm going to check my oil level, make sure it's full. I'm going to check my transmission level, make sure that it's full. I'm going to check my power steering fluid and make sure it's full. This bus has got a gear-driven air compressor and a gear-driven power steering pump. And I'm checking and making sure that that's all fastened secure and no leaks on the power steering fluid. And I'm checking my steering box, making sure that it's fastened securely. I'm checking the power steering lines, making sure that the power steering lines are not leaking. Okay, I'm just checking my steering knuckles, making drag link and making sure that the knuckles are not loose on it. I'm checking my springs, making sure that they're not cracked. My spring hangers, making sure that the nuts are on it, that they're fastened secure. And I'm checking my U-bolts, making sure that the nuts are on my U-bolt, making sure that they're fastened secure. I'm checking my shock absorber, making sure that it's got its bolts, nuts on it, and making sure it's not leaking, make sure it's not dented. And I'm checking my air lines, making sure that my air line is not cracked or frayed or leaking. And I'm checking my air chamber, making sure my air chamber is not dented or leaking. And I'm checking my slack adjuster, make sure that I got no more than 1 inch of slack in it. Okay, then I'm checking my brake drum, making sure that there's no cracks in my drum. I'm checking my brake pads, making sure that I got more than 1/4 inch of a pad on it. And then I'm checking my tire, making sure that I've got 4/32 of tread depth. I'm checking, making sure that there's no cuts or cracks in my tire. I'm making sure that my air pressure is up to the spec. I'm checking my rims, making sure there's no cracks in my rims. I'm checking my lug nuts, making sure that there's no rusty spots running from my lug bolts to make sure that they're tight. I'm checking my hub seal, making sure that there's no leaks from my hub seal. This is where the fuses are at. In this area right here, they're breakers. Most of them are, and we don't have spare fuses on school buses. Okay, I'm checking my stop arm and making sure that it's not faded out in the lights, and making sure that they're not broken or anything. And I'm checking underneath my bus, I'm checking the frame and making sure that the frame is not cracked or illegal welds or anything like that on it. And I'm checking my exhaust system and making sure that the exhaust system is fastened securely with the exhaust hangers that's fastened to the frame. I'm checking my drive shaft, making sure that it's fastened secure. There's carrier bearings that's fastened up at the U-joints that holds it up secure. So I'm making sure that that's all fastened secure underneath my bus. Okay? I'm checking my reflectors. The reflectors that's here in the front of the rear tires, they're orange, and making sure that those are all on my bus. And there's one in the rear behind anything behind the tire is red, and I'm making sure that those are on the back. There'll be one on the side, and then there'll be one in the back of the bus. And okay, now then I'm going to check my rear suspension. I'm checking my springs, making sure that they're not cracked. My spring mounts, making sure that they're fastened secure. Then this is an airbag. I'm checking and making sure that this airbag is not leaking and it's fastened secure. And I'm looking at my shock, making sure that my shock is not dented and not leaking. And then I'm going to go to my brakes. I'm checking my air line, making sure that it's not frayed or leaking. And then I'm checking my slack adjuster, not slack adjuster, but my air chamber, and making sure it's not dented or anything like that, or any damage, and making sure that it's fastened secure. And I'm also checking my slack adjuster, making sure that there's no more than 1 inch of play in my slack adjuster. I'm checking my brake drums, making sure that they're not cracked or indication of being worn out. And I'm checking my brake shoes to make sure that the brake shoes have got more than 1/4 inch of pad on them. And then I'm checking my tires. I'm checking the rear. The rear must be at least 2/32 depth on the tread depth. And I'm checking to see if there's any cracks or cuts on the sidewall. I'm checking to make sure that the insulation is properly on on the tire. I'm checking and making sure my axle seals is not leaking. It would be leaking, it would be coming down the inside on the back, or it might come out through a spot on this side here on my axle seal. And also I'm checking my rim, making sure my rim is not dented or cracked. And I'm checking my lug nuts to make sure that they're tight. There would be rust to indicate they was loose if they was loose, but these are tight. And I'm checking my splash guard or mud flap. I'm making sure that it's fastened on securely and make sure that it works properly to keep debris from falling out. This is bud wheels. I'm checking betwixt these bud wheels, make sure that there's no debris betwixt them that might be hung in them. Okay, this is that rear reflector there, and this is the red rear reflector here. There will be red reflectors in the back is where those will be. Okay, I'm checking my student lights up there. There's a red one and a yellow one. I'm checking both of them, make sure that they're all not discolored or cracked. I'm checking my turn signals. They're orange, and there's one on the left and one on the right. I'm making sure that they're in the proper color, and I'm making sure that they say that they're put on right where it said that the top is right there. And I'm also checking my brake lights, and checking and making sure that this is not cracked or anything, and making sure it says top right there. And also I'm checking this backup light, and it's making sure that it's not cracked or broken, and making sure the top says it's right there. And this is tail light and brake light, and this is tail light and brake light. You actually got 4 in the rear. I'm checking my bumper, making sure it's fastened secure. There's no indications that there's anything wrong. The tailpipe looks good. There's another reflector. Checking my emergency exit from the rear, and it's secure. And the marking on the top of the bus where it says school bus, I'm making sure that can be read. Okay, I'm coming around here. I'm checking my fuel tank underneath. I'm making sure that it's fastened secure. I'm making sure that there's nothing broken under there. Checking my fuel cap. I'm making sure that the chain is fastened onto the lid properly. And I'm checking for the O-ring around there to make sure it's not broken, and making sure that it's set in there where it won't leak fuel out. And basically most everything that you see on this side, I mentioned it over there on the other side. And we got the DEF tank right here. This bus has DEF. I'm checking the DEF tank, making sure that this strap is onto my cap real good, and make sure that it's fastened secure. Okay, that concludes our pre-trip. I may have missed something. I don't know that I did, but I don't know that I didn't because I don't have the paper in front of me. I've done this a few times, so hopefully we don't miss anything. And hopefully this will do you some good. And until next time, see ya.